Okay, so following on from continuity of protective conductors, the next letter to remember is I, and I is for insulation resistance. Few things to remember before doing insulation resistance. Vulnerable stuff, vulnerable to the test voltage, can be damaged. Certain components won't allow the voltage to pass through them during the test current, so for example a PIR, you'd need to remove that and link it out. Make sure all your RCDs are in the open position, and in this instance I'm going to close my circuit breakers on the board that I'm going to test, or the part of the board. So there is two lots of IR test, one for this side because this has got a separate RCD, and then this has got a separate RCD. If we had just one RCD and all the breakers together, we could do them all as a whole, but we cannot test through an RCD. So we must make sure the RCDs are in the open position and the circuit breakers in the closed position, so that's linking all the line conductors together at once when the test is undertaken. If any circuit out of those is down, then the overall value will also be down. So it's a new build, remember, so we're expecting everything to be good. Also, again, it's a new build, so there won't be anything that's plugged into any of the socket outlets. There won't be any lamps. If you've got fluorescent fittings on the install, then it would be prudent to undertake this test prior to the final connection to the light fitting itself. So going back down to my instrument, I'm going to scroll through to find the insulation resistance setting, which is that particular one, and I can see that the test voltage is 500 volts. If we got anything vulnerable to test, we can drop that voltage, but we still have to meet the requirements of the minimum insulation resistance value. So the schedule of test results for these tests has two columns: live to live and live to earth. If there was three columns it would be easier, but at the moment the model form has two columns. So because we're taking two readings for basically a box that's in a single column, then we would always record the lowest value, as that is the worst case. Here I'm doing my test between my live conductors, so the respective neutral bar for this set of breakers and any side of the breaker itself, because all the browns are linked together. I could go on to the buzz bar below the breakers if I wanted to. It makes no difference, it's whatever your choice would actually be. So that would be between live conductors, and then live conductors to earth would be and line to earth. So a good habit or good practice to get into with an insulation resistance tester is to pop the leads together and take a reading, and then take a reading with the leads apart, and that will check that the connections into the instrument are all good, and also get you familiar with what a bad reading is and what a good reading is. So at the moment this would be a good reading because the crocodile clips are not connected. So if I can get that. There you can see that's indicating open circuit and the clips are apart. With the clips together, this would indicate a bad reading, or actually a direct short circuit in this instance. And as you can see, it's coming up as 0 megohms. Now if we've got two-way switching, which we have on this particular board, remember the switches were in a position such that the circuit was made and continuity was all the way up to the lamp itself, to include the maximum distance of wiring. So I would take an insulation resistance value with the switches in that position. I would then open circuit the lamp, reconnect the lamp and take another reading. So with two-way lighting circuits you need to repeat the test so we get the worst case, and it would also pick up if there was any damage to what are called the strappers on the two-way circuit. So that's insulation resistance. Hazards, make sure your covers are on, because that can provide safety for the customer that's in the building at the time. Also, by making sure all the covers are on, it means that if you have trapped a wire when putting a cover on, then it will be found during that test. Whereas if it was an all-metal construction, you trapped a wire but you didn't put the covers on till after the insulation resistance test, then you'd soon find out when you energise the system that you perhaps should have put the covers on first.